His head, and there he goes. Abyss gonna clean him up.
Olaf goes down. Everyone's just gonna line up here for Lazzy. He's gonna find himself the Quadra. Give it to him. Pentakill.
Priestley with the quad feed.
Gets the ace. Available, just spin to win all over.
That game was insane.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Saints Gaming CA channel. My name, as always, is Zeddy, joined alongside Mr. Danners, and we are here with the season finale of the Activision Blizzard Collegiate Championship. This is going to be Game 1 versus the University of Southern California. And right off the bat, some very interesting deck lists from both of these two teams.
Yes, it is going to be definitely an odd one. I know from I was talking to Coach Ryan a little bit earlier. Unfortunately for the St. Clair squad, in regards to the playoff run for Activision Blizzard, it doesn't seem like they're mathematically able to make it. So what this matchup here today does let us do is try some things maybe we wouldn't try during the regular season. And there are a few specific, or actually the exact same card rather, being shown up in every single deck. Yogg Saron being showed up. Zeddy, for everybody at home, and then just a refresher for myself as well. Let us know the madness this card can pull.
The Mystery Box Legendary Minion randomly pulls 10 spells from the entire game of any card that's available. I don't know if it actually grades it by whether it's available in standard play or not. I think it's literally just whatever's in the game playable. It will cast 10 random spells with 10 random targets, including potentially your own face. It is the highest gamble card. It has absolutely no competitive viability, and I am so very excited that St. Clair is bringing it today.
Now the thing is, it's kind of interesting as well, is I believe St. Clair have brought that card into every single deck, and then it requires them to at least make it turn 10, right? It's a 10 mana, I believe?
Correct.
Yeah, so they have to survive all the way until the point where they get that Yogg Saron, and that very well might not necessarily finish the game either, so that might be a little bit awkward if anything it finishes the game but against them.
I mean, for St. Clair, it's really just about buying time and trying to get to that meme con, and that is going to be a coin play to get things going off a little bit. The nice Morshon watch post, it really was the only play they had to actually get anything on the board, and it is going to threaten the Rogue a little bit, so nice little tempo play from St. Clair to get that unit on the board.
And meanwhile, the side of the University of Southern California playing something a little bit more, or a little bit more common, a little bit more standard compared to what St. Clair's pulling off here. You were saying before, when we were talking about it a little bit earlier, that majority of their decks seem to have some sort of tempo base. You explained it pretty well, like what kind of their goal would be. Something in regards to not necessarily big minions, but small minions that can hit high or something like that. You remind me and everyone else what the tempo style means?
Absolutely. So when you're looking at these tempo decks that you're going to be seeing from USC today, what they're trying to do mostly is play like middle of the curve, cheaper units and spells, but combining them in a way that you get your smaller units, your individual smaller units to really strong strength, or you're looking for combo plays, kind of like what we're seeing with the Shadow Driller Hanar here, which is, you know, an early game unit that provides a lot of value for its card because every time you play a secret, it gets more value. So it's low-cost cards that generate high value based on the way that you combine them with the rest of the cards in your deck. So it's slightly different than an aggro deck where you're basically just flooding the board with units and hoping to win the game in 5 turns. And it's different than a mid-range deck because you're not playing as control-heavy. It's mostly just about generating value with low-cost units and spells. And it's going to be St. Clair actually finding a way to get rid of the Hanar early. So they did get 2 secrets out of it, but good to get rid of that earlier on in the game.
Limited damage, or limited setup, I suppose, here for St. Clair against USC. But that being said, of course, that minion cannot attack on the board. It's just a guard tower, basically, trying to use other card effects to actually let it do the work for you, so to speak. But now, let's see where are we at. We have, of course, another opportunity here for USC to try to get something started. But
yeah, it likely will just be the hero power here. They want to get some more threat on that minion and clear that off before they start playing units. You can tell that they've obviously have units in hand that they want to play, but they don't want to give St. Clair a win condition by generating all those 2/2 tokens. So this is going to give St. Clair a lot of space to actually go for the life tap here, and that is actually going to proc the shenanigans their second card in the turn, transform it into a banana. Oh no, that's such a good secret counter into Warlock. So they actually lose out on the minion, but they aren't going to be able to banana up the 3-1, which really quite frustrating actually for the rogue, because they won't be able to clear that off with the hero power anymore. So a nice little gimmick play from St. Clair.
I mean, I guess you take what it, take the negative, turn it to a positive of sort here. That minion going to be, of course, like I was saying before, unable to attack, but at least now it stays alive one more turn at least, unless there's some other additional firepower in the rogue's hand, which we shall see in just a second. Otherwise, that's going to be like 4 damage to the face of USC, and we have ourselves an Octobot.
That's that Octobot. When you trigger that Frenzy, it's going to reduce the cost of every card in their hand by 1. It's a really good setup card for 2 mana, especially if you're able to generate a lot of hand value, which so far they've been able to do. So for St. Clair, it's going to be about taking care of this minion as quickly as possible. And unfortunately for USC, they have the means to do it with the 4-2 on board, as long as they can find a way to actually trigger that attack, finding another spell, perhaps to actually get those units to fight each other and engage in combat. So it is a little bit of a dangerous situation for USC. If St. Clair can actually find removal, they lose a lot of value out of this play.
I mean, by trying to maybe search for a mage spell, you have a little bit more chance of maybe something that would hit yourself alongside everybody else, but you can just discover the card. We're not going to see it just yet, but put it aside. Looking like Saints are looking to maybe try and take down this Octobot, but they do use these smaller minions, and they're just going to keep reducing the mana in the hand still, right? Because Frenzy is on either player's turn, correct?
Yeah, as long as the unit survives damage.
Correct.
Okay, this is actually really good for St. Clair. They have the Cascading Disaster in hand. They were just waiting to see if this was the optimal time to use it, and after getting that Destroy off and that secret triggering, there's really no other line of play. So they had the response ready, they just wasn't sure if they wanted to use it. So good ordering and patience from St. Clair to make that play.
Yeah, very nice. It's going to just completely remove the value that USC was going to try and pull off for more than likely this next turn coming up. So we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. Saints, small little board, but still better than the situation that USC has in hand. We'll have to see, though. Of course, a lot more mana in the pocket for this next turn coming up. What are they going to opt to try and pull off? We'll have to see. Of course, we don't see their hands, but I'm sure they're crafting up something.
Yeah, I mean, for the Rogue right now, you recognize that this deck from St. Clair, it's a meme deck, but it does have late game options. So you want to kind of get yourself established on the board within the next 2 to 3 turns. And I think they are going to go for that setup now with the Blackjack Center actually coming down. It's going to bounce the Watchtower back to hand. So it is going to get that health back, but it's going to lose out on a lot of value not being on the board. And they are going to be able to fill up their board here with a couple units while that Watchtower is out of play. You can see already 3 units coming down the same turn, just trying to fill up the board without any repercussions.
Yeah, fair enough. And now they even found themselves another Octobot to play in. So if they still have some sort of setup available to try and trigger that Frenzy, that could very well come into play, even though Saints burned a couple of resources before to try and get rid of the first one. So now, back to the drawing board. Do we bring the tower back on out, or do we try something different here for St. Clair?
I mean, it's really an awkward set of situations here. There's a couple secrets on board for USC. So you want to be playing around those, obviously, as St. Clair is worrying about what you might actually be triggering on this situation. And none of the cards in your hand feel particularly good to play here. So the Watch Post is probably your lowest risk card. You are going to summon out that 2-3 Ambusher, so very likely that the Watchtower gets attacked right away, but I think they're going to be forced to go for the Drain Soul here onto the 2-3, and with no response coming out of that second Seeker, they are going to be able to just get some free cheap damage on face. So overall, not a horrible line of play for St. Clair.
I mean, at least getting rid of the minion poison just to get rid of that instant, no matter what, one minion dies kind of scenario. Taking that off the board, fair enough. Gonna slow things down for a second. Might as well draw some cards while you can. God, that's what that Discover would have ended up being. So pretty valuable nonetheless to keep their resources in hand nice and full. But this now does allow for the Octobot. He is going to find himself some decent value here. Good thing they drew the cards first, so maximum amount of value in regards to all of that mana reduction across the board.
Yeah, and they're going to be able to transition that into more draw. It's just what Rogue likes to do, is draw its entire deck and hopefully win the game sometime in between. And I think for St. Clair, it's one of those situations where if the rogue can actually find the value it needs with all this immense draw power, it gets really dangerous. But you've already burned about 6 to 7 turns worth of time, and you still have a lot of control tools in hand. So despite this big tempo play from the rogue, it's actually not too bad for St. Clair if they can get themselves established.
Yeah, at least, like, sure, there's a lot of things on board, but at least it isn't the any sort of real heavy hitter of sorts here, so can be dealt with. We'll just have to see how Saints want to try and pull this one off. They do have a couple of other minions in hand to try and slow things down, including, I believe, that 5 mana with a taunt if they want to try something like that.
Yeah, I assume the Ogremancer comes down this turn. I think the question for St. Clair is, what do I want to have to trigger those secrets first? The
Fair
Cult
enough,
Neophyte is really the only other option you have to play on that 2-mana curve. You definitely don't want to go for the demon on the left in this situation because they're just going to get killed right away and you're basically spoon-feeding free tempo. So there's going to be the Ogremancer coming down. And it is going to trigger yet another ambush. So not ideal, but they have the additional Drain Soul, so they are going to manage to counter off that second ambush with the Drain Soul. And probably one of the better lines of play St. Clair was able to find. And triggering the dirty tricks after the fact of the last Octobot coming down is, at least you're reducing some value. So good patience from St. Clair there as well.
Yeah, definitely could have been worse, but of course still now, again, just always makes me nervous looking at the rogue's hand. We're going to have to see here, though. Going to return that Ogremancer right back into the hand. Be gone. Now it's just one little 2-1 minion to try and stop this onslaught. Going to be a lot of damage to the face, more than likely here against St. Clair this time by.
The Twisting Nether is in hand for St. Clair, so they don't have to stress too much about controlling the board state. They're really just playing for their own win con. And this deck, like at the end of the day, it's not really playing around your opponent. It's really playing its own game and just hoping it gets enough time to actually do it. So being able to find maybe some cheap damage with that 2 mana unit and then clearing off this board once USC actually fully commits is probably the line of play. And that's actually a secret passage coming out. So USC is going to fish with all this mana that they have and really try to take advantage of the fact that they have all these low-cost spells in hand.
I'm going to have to get a move on, however, and still have some mana available to try and make some sort of additional play. I did like that they brought back one of their minions that could bounce a monster or a creature back into the hand if need be. Save that for later. And okay, we're going to see Mankrik come out here.
Oh, and they actually get the bounce onto the Mankrik as well. Did they get the recast? Sometimes it's difficult to tell with the rope burn. They're not actually going to go for the recast. They're just going to get the dagger. So Mankrik's again. It's a little bit of a polygamous Mankrik again with this rogue deck. So he's going to have 2 wives hidden in that deck somewhere at some point to go find them later. And this is kind of an awkward situation now for St. Clair because this Twisting Nether, it's on curve, but you don't really want to be blowing that into a board of 2/2s and 3/3s. This might actually be a better play. This Crossroads Watch Post that just got pulled, they might be able to have some better synergy with that.
Okay, absolutely. Because yeah, there's no big threat or anything, right? So it would definitely feel bad to use something as powerful as that Twisting Nether. Bamboozle, however, going to be coming on out, still going to kill off both minions. They were thinking about that Twisting Nether, but I'm thinking twice.
It definitely feels bad play. Like you want to do it because you don't want the rogue to go too heavy, but you're also worried about the generated value that they have in their hand and how big their board could actually get. And the Ogremancer, unfortunately, just isn't enough to potentially save you from what could be potentially your last turn. They have Diraxis coming out next turn as well that they choose to. So St. Clair's not really in too much of a rush, and committing that card there when they're basically going to be flipping their plan anyways within the next 2 turns is totally fine. Once that Diraxis comes out, it's immediate tempo. And there we go, wife number 2.
Yeah, wife number 2 into the deck she goes. Now, can they fish and possibly find her? That is the question. Doesn't look like it as of yet.
Yeah, they tried to use that second secret passage to go fishing for those wives, but not going to find them yet, which means that St. Clair is going to be okay. Actually, wait a second. So they did find one. Hearthstone was debating me. With a lot of lag. But yeah, there she is. Isn't she beautiful?
Yeah, that's going to be tough to deal with, and now you're kind of regretting using the Twisting Nether, aren't you?
It's definitely a scary unit to take care of, but that 3 damage point, like, especially with the way that USC is playing their deck. Actually, if you wouldn't mind scrolling over their deck and see how many cards are still remaining. 5 cards left. So USC is in a really awkward situation because they've committed all of these resources. They have less than 10 cards, I believe, total, including their hand, of what they can actually play. And St. Clair is about to turn off from their win con, and there's the top deck. I don't think they're going to need to commit that, though. I think it's likely just going to be the Jiraxis coming out to get that armor and start actually finding that hero power value. There's a number of ways that St. Clair can play this. I personally think, you either want to go for one of these lower cost spells or go right into the Jiraxis and hold on to the Nether until USC goes for their big commitment play.
Absolutely. Now, of course, the Man Crook's wife situation, I mean, at least, sure, it's a beefy minion, but at least I guess it doesn't hit that hard right now. The Saints do have a little bit of time. Are we going to see Jiraxis, or are we going to see something different?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. There's a couple lines I personally like the Jiraxis, just because, you have the charge in hand and you want to be able to start generating value immediately afterwards. But this Jailer play, honestly, is not too bad either. You're getting rid of that Blackjack Stunner because that got bounced back to hand, so you're able to kind of dissuade or slow down a little bit that tempo, force USC to trade if they want to find that unit again. So this is kind of like a nice little trap play that St. Clair's played, where you're removing one of USC's only actual defensive tools in hand, and then saying, if you want to recover that tool, you're going to have to give me some value first.
Absolutely here, because of course that 4-6 does not go down without a fight, so to speak here. So, with full mana now, breaking in the turn 10, this is where it starts getting dangerous in regards to, I guess, some sort of finishing combo from USC, but at the same time, of course, like we saw before, they're extremely low in regards to cards in their deck, so whatever final combo they have, if anything, is probably all they have left in the tank. Meanwhile, St. Clair, we know they still have the sauce in the deck if necessary, and even in hand, they have quite a bit of options. We're going to see Alexstrasza come on out here, and is that enough to kill?
It's going to be close. I don't think there's any Sinister Strikes in this deck list, so I don't think they're going to be able to cheese that win con out. But I do believe they might be looking for that last wife in the deck, because she will deal 3 damage to the face immediately. So I think St. Clair's kind of forced the Jiraxis here, because as soon as that wife gets pulled, they basically auto-lose. Don't really know what the play is here. Charge might be able to pull something that can give you a little bit of healing once you drop that Battle Cry and get those corrupted cards back into hand. That might be the play, but they're just going to go for the Twisting Nether. This is a little risky, because you're giving St. Clair their Death Rattle unit back from that demon, and you're also exposing yourself to instant death to the Man Crook wife, but not pulled just yet, and that is actually going to be a wicked stab to round things out. So USC is going to take game number 1. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see the Yogg, but we got plenty more opportunities for St. Clair to whip it out.
Yeah, unfortunately not going to work out this time either, for the Saints just having that last little finishing blow there in the back of their hand, ready to finish the job. And to be fair, I guess it felt like Saints kind of had something going on there, but just could not hang on long enough. When you summon Jiraxis, does it give you armor by chance or no?
Yeah, 5 armor.
Okay, so that's
just part of the reason why I was thinking it might have been the play, but I think really for St. Clair, the deck just doesn't have enough responses to deal with the consistent pressure coming up from that rogue deck. Like we said, it's these tempo decks, right? They're not trying to kill you on turn 1, but they are going to play a lot of cards in a very quick succession that force you to react quite quickly. There's a lot of just pace to that deck. And St. Clair's deck needs time, and unfortunately, you're just going to get out-tempoed by those styles of decks. So I'm hoping that USC doesn't, manage to pull that off in the same stride all 3 games. I would like to see the Yogg once tonight, but
it would be nice.
We'll really lead it up to the cards.
I mean, of course, I've seen Twitter clips, but I've never gotten to witness the madness of Yogg live, so it'd be really cool to see it here today. But we still have at least another 2 more chances here for Saints to pull it off. Now, what are they going to take into game number 2, however? Let's take the quick look. It looks like we're just going to do... Actually, we're going to get rid of the Warlock this time by. It is going to be Saints Paladin versus USC's Priests. Let's hop into game 2.
Well, this is actually a nice start for St. Clair. I mean, the Crimson Hothead probably gets mulled here. You're looking for something that you can actually play out a little bit earlier, but the Aldor Attendant in the first day of school and starting hand is I think that's almost 9 times out of 10 the perfect mulligan for Paladin. You want to have that early value in your deck, so you can actually buy time to get to those mid to late game stages where you can actually start playing your deck. So this is a pretty good start already for St. Clair.
Yeah, going to be able to hit the ground running. We'll see if they do opt to switch out that hothead or not, but in just a moment, of course. Now, trying to think here, because of course all of these decks will have Yogg in there at some point, but they all have, like, from what you're saying. Oh, hang on a second. We've got a Murloc.
Look at that curve.
That's kind of nice for an early game
That's
start. Now,
beautiful. That's probably the best starting hand I've ever seen. And the hand of a dull top deck. Are you kidding me? Oh my god. This is really, really good for St. Clair. They're in prime position to take control of the board right now with this hand state. That first day of school, they might decide to hold on to that to see. I don't actually know if there's any spell triggers in the deck. I will pull up the list and double check as I'm saying that. But already that curve into the McGurgle Prime next turn is perfect.
And of course, it looks like that the side of USC gets to take a look and pick a card out for themselves once again. Not much else they can really do here on this turn, which means it looks like Saints are going to be able to start to either make this minion stronger or start flooding the board a little bit.
There's a couple options here. I actually don't dislike the hand of a doll since the USC hasn't shown that they have any available threats in hand, and you know they have coins, so you could force it out and force them to kind of commit some defensive utility here with that hand of a doll. But just to confirming, the only spell burst trigger in St. Clair's deck is that Crimson Hothead. So it's likely that if they're holding on to the first day of school, they're trying to use it as tempo value to trigger that Hothead and get that taunt immediately for free. But right now, they're really in no rush to play that card. They've got enough value in hand that they can keep playing the game at their own pace and don't have to stress the immediate use of that those 2/1 drops.
I mean, I tell you what here, this attendant actually kind of hits a little hard right now. Already going to have to start using resources to kind of keep yourself topped off. So, may just be one lone little minion, but the pressure is already coming on here from Saints to try and get their game back.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like a soft punish from USC where they're actually able to get full value out of the Renew versus if you take the turn to commit the McGurgle, you're not really threatening that face, and then they might just awkwardly tap face instead of actually getting to play hand value. So the USC doesn't come out of that too far behind, but St. Clair is going to be able to start leveraging some attacks on face now at this hand. The question for me is do you first day to get that one drop down and use your entire mana pool, or do you hold it for the spell burst trigger? I think St. Clair's probably going to hold it, but there is, of course, the option of just getting that last unit down and going as wide as possible into this priest.
Hovering it right here, right now, thinking about it, but it looked like for a second there they're going to just pass on it. We do see them picking it up. This could be coming out, sure enough. Two random minions, a Discover as well. That's kind of sick.
The Wand Thief is super good here. As much Hearthstone is really a game of generated value, and the more value your deck can give you, the better it is. There's just some really interesting options as well. Grand Finale is kind of not perfect with this deck. You don't really have any ways of triggering it, but it is an 8/8 elemental. It's probably something that they're looking at. I likely expect that it's going to be the Potion of Illusion that comes out, though, because you are able to curve it out next turn. And actually going for the third one, the one that I didn't even mention, Incanter's Flow. That's interesting to me. St. Clair's not running too many spells in their deck. You're getting like 30% value off of that card. It's still good value, but I don't know. I thought the potion would have been fun.
Would it be like the most, like, of all the 3 cards, however, like, we can at least consistently get some sort of value out of this?
It's the lowest risk. It's the lowest risk for sure. Because if you take the potion and then all of a sudden USC pulls a board wipe, then you're kind of awkwardly sitting on a 4-mana card that you can't really use, at least not for the time being. But I mean, you're already so far ahead. I kind of like the aggression of that tempo play. Get that second McGurgle Prime locked into your deck. Maybe pull another Wand Thief. Get even more Libram reduction. Like, all 3 of your cards have incredible like ETBs and Death Rattles that Potion of Illusion just gives you so much tempo if you can actually lock it down.
And now the Saints have to find a way to deal with this Scorpion. Of course, the poisonous nature doesn't matter the health or attack. It will one-shot whatever it touches, unless it's covered by Divine Shield, I believe. So, how do they opt to deal with this one? In theory, we could have the Archer into the Scorpion, then ping it with the Murloc.
So the Elven Archer is definitely the reason why they went for the first day. Otherwise, you'd probably just go for the 4-drop. But because of exactly what you mentioned, that Divine Shield still being available, and they want to clear off this poison unit, they are going to just generate some more hand value and try to go pretty wide here on this turn. I suspect they don't want to commit everything. I think this priest has some wide control, so you don't want to get caught in a position where you just don't have responses to what, like, you overcommit and then you get punished super hard. But a dormant unit is always the way to go.
Yeah, fair enough, especially if that gives you a weapon a little bit later down the road as well. And a little bit of bonus face damage to be the nice cherry on top here for this turn. So not bad so far from St. Clair, looking good.
Yeah, that Scorpion does kind of give away the fact that USC might have the Hysteria in hand, in which case St. Clair could get really punished by this play. If that Hysteria triggers on the Libram Attendant, it has the potential to wipe the entire board. In fact, I think it guarantees a board wipe. So playing this Dormant unit to at least maintain that some value stays on board is always really good.
For sure, because that Attendant is not only like hits decently right here for this point in the game, but with a 5 health, like you're saying, no matter what it battles up against, it's going to win that fight. So would be a bad time for that Mind Controlled of sorts, or Hysteria rather. It's going to be the Holy Nova, however, to just kind of wipe the board a little bit, getting the weaker minions off the table.
This isn't too bad for St. Clair. You can easily just curve out onto the Truth Seeker. You don't really need to play anything too insane. And the Truth Seeker tempoing, I believe, will actually set you up for a Libram of Hope on turn 6, because it'll reduce that. If you see that 8-drop in hand, it will reduce to a 6-drop. So I think the best line of play here for St. Clair is just to tempo curve out the Truth Seeker and just keep smacking that face.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, there's nothing, at least as of right now, on board to punish. The Hothead has arrived, maybe a little bit later than what St. Clair was hoping for, but it doesn't matter. They're in a pretty decent spot nonetheless. Now, sure enough, Truth Seeker has arrived. We see that all the Librams start getting a little bit less in regards to mana cost. And now a big old taunt on the board too, so just getting more and more difficult here for USC to try and make a move.
Ooh, this is fun. I haven't actually seen this card yet. So I'm really excited to see what this Golem actually is. This is a card that I've seen in a couple deck lists now. It's the only 4-drop allowed in your deck, and it creates a Golem for you that has random abilities and features attached to it. So very similarly to how Hagatha worked in the Shaman decks, where you would create your own Elemental Wraith. You get to build your own unit with its own battle cry effect. So very cool for USC. Ooh, and the Holy Smite value. That's actually really nice for USC. They're able to get rid of that 3/3, and St. Clair's tempo is finally starting to wean down. But this Libram of Hope is available. I wonder if they're just going to play it for the tempo to get that 8/8 taunt out, or if they want to hold on to that and actually get that healing value as well. Because there's a couple ways to use that card.
Absolutely, of course, St. Clair haven't even been scratched here in regards to their health pool, so, like, still in fantastic position in this regard. What else do we have in hand, however? I see.
Yeah, it's a couple options, for sure. This unit here, this 2/2, is going to make a 3/2 weapon, so there is actually the line where you trade your face into the 3/3 and then heal yourself up immediately with the Libram of Hope. To get maximum value. It's probably, now that I think about it, probably exactly what's going to happen. And there it is. It's the trade into the heal, so you get full value out of everything, and then you also build up that 8/8 unit as well. Really nice play from St. Clair.
Absolutely.
It's always nice when it all comes together.
And when the game plan comes together, it definitely feels good. And looking at this board right now for St. Clair, USC probably not feeling good in the slightest. The Shadow Word Death, however, going to be brought out. Probably, like, thank goodness there for you at USC. I'm not sure how they would have dealt with that. You see the Golem, it's got some freezing ability, so it's going to at least slow things down for a little bit. And we draw Oh My Yogg.
Oh, nice. So we get the free Oh My Yogg. I believe it's going to just be the Crimson Hothead into the Yogg, into the hero power. I don't really see any other play for St. Clair at this moment. It's not really, you don't really play Oh My Yogg for crazy value. It's literally just a teaser of what we're going to get on turn 10. But it is a really nice way to trigger that spell burst.
Well, it's game 2, and we still have yet to actually see the Yogg even get drawn at this point here. So we'll have to see. Still a little bit of time left to go before we reach that 10th turn. And even though the minions have been frozen for the Saints, a couple new ones show up on the board, and it just continues to look menacing right now in the Saints' favor.
This 5/5 with Divine Shield is pretty scary though, because it has the ability to clear off some of this board, and especially if they can bless that up with an Apotheosis, it's going to be 7 health worth of healing on every attack, I believe, from that unit. So lots of, it's scary. The nice thing about this Oh My Yogg is that if they can actually predict the play into the Apotheosis, it denies the ability for USC to actually commit that. So they'd have to bait out that secret rather first. So it's going to mess with their mana curve a little bit, because likely the Apotheosis is exactly what they have in mind. They just can't play it right now because of that secret. So
is Apotheosis just a 6 or 7 mana, or
no? It's a 3-drop spell that increases by +2 +3. The danger is that it's going to get popped immediately. So there's the Raise Dead to trigger the Oh My Yogg. So Raise Dead is going to convert into, let's see, the Pounce. Okay, all right. I mean, you get a little bit of face-doing damage. So Apotheosis doesn't appear to be in hand because they actually already did swing with the unit, but they are going to be able to get the Insight off here as well and generate some more value in hand. And there's the Condemn. That's the rank spell for the Priest. At each mana point in the game, when you go from 0 mana to 5 mana and then 10 mana, it ranks up and increases in power. So they're going to be able to get 2 damage worth of clear out onto everything, and they're actually going to be able to find the board wipe here. So well done from USC to eliminate all of these threats from St. Clair. Unfortunately, the top deck is just too clean, and St. Clair actually draws in perfectly on curve. It's not the best unit to find right now, because it is going to be very subject to clear, but nothing better than drawing an 8-drop on 8 turn 8.
Definitely feels good moment, especially if you want to use it right away, which it looks like St. Clair is looking to possibly go for. Does have that rush, of course, going to be able to just instantly shrink that attack and health down, take care of it nice and quick. Sure, he might end up going, but at the same time, he cleared off that golem, so small victories.
Unfortunately for St. Clair, the danger is that there's still no Yogg in hand, and your Priest opponent is sitting on a huge hand advantage, which is usually not ideal when you're playing into Priest. You want to control the hand advantage as much as you can, force them to commit their resources earlier on in the game so that they're stuck with less options as you get into the later game. And St. Clair, while they were able to put on pressure, USC was able to find creative ways to eliminate those pressures without having to commit too many of their resources.
For sure. Now just randomly looking at the Saints' hand here, we've got Alexstrasza here. So normally, this is a different Alexstrasza. I'm thinking this is the one that does, it sets your health to a certain amount, but no, it's a little bit different. Never mind. It's either 8 healing or 8 damage.
This is better. It's a better version because you have more flexibility with how you want to use it. It's actually going to be a Sarah generated by the Draconic Study. That's a nice pull.
Holy moly.
That's going to give them so many dream cards in hand that they can use. So likely, very, very likely that this gets traded out this turn. You don't want to give them the opportunity to bounce that back or res it or anything of this sort. And I suspect that the Alexstrasza will come down as well just for the tempo. I don't think they have lethal. Yeah, St. Clair's short of lethal, unfortunately. They only had 14 damage with the 8 plus the 6 to face, so they're not going to be able to find the kill, but they will be able to find the board clear, and now all of a sudden USC, despite having generated all this value, is very much on the back foot, as you're forced into an awkward position with only 9 health remaining and a 3 damage weapon on the side of St. Clair in addition to their minions as well. Lots of burst potential here for Saints.
Yeah, at the same time, though, USC does have a ton of cards in hand here, and lots of mana to play with. So, granted, those are some beefy members on the side of St. Clair right now, but it always makes me nervous whenever I see anyone in, regardless of which card game it is. When you have this many resources and this many cards in hand, what do you have in store? And with only 9 health on the board here, there's not much time left here for USC. Otherwise, the Saints Paladin deck is going to take what's probably on pace to be essentially a flawless win here.
That is going to be the Summon Mirror coming out, so that is going to actually manage to fully clear and leave a 3/3 on board for the side of USC. So,
all right,
good play from them for sure. It's a big commitment, but you're in kind of dire straits at this point, so you don't really have the opportunity to be careful with your resources. You need to play whatever's going to get you out of that situation fast. In St. Clair, we can hope and pray for that Yogg pull, that top deck on turn 10, but it's really going to be hard of the cards for St. Clair now at this point.
Okay, absolutely hilarious. We are going to see not the Yogg, but we're going to see the 5-drop.
Wait. That is the Yogg. Take a look at that death rattle. It's the Yogg. They're going to be able
Draw
to
your
pull the
highest
Yogg,
cost
guarantee the
minion,
Yogg pull.
yep, you're right. So it'll be in
So-
hand. They can't use it yet, but it'll be there.
So there is probably the... I wonder if the line of play for St. Clair after that Soul Mirror comes down is just play everything in your hand. Like, why not? I really don't see another play when you're already in kind of this awkward situation where you're so close to winning, but if you don't win, you lose. Like, it's kind of awkward to think about it like that. That's really kind of the situation for St. Clair, is they need to close this out quickly. Nice, that's actually going to give even more value going into next turn. It's going to be the trade down into the 3-3 as well. So this Taunt Divine Shield is protecting that 3-9 that when it dies, it's going to give you 2 of your best units in your deck. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic here. Perfect positioning. Sure, Saints finally taking their first bit of damage, but not going to really make them sweat and the slightest here. That board and what is likely coming around the horizon is just too strong to think about.
I actually predict a really funny scenario where St. Clair has lethal on board and chooses to play Yogg-Saron instead. I can already envision that. I
They
can
just want to
already
say
see
they
that
did
happening.
it. I just want to say they did it, eh?
I wonder.
Yeah, at this point, it's just waiting for that card to come around. And like I said, you're really, with these Yogg-Saron decks, you're just playing your own game. That's why I'm not talking about USC, because it doesn't really matter. It just matters when that Yogg-Saron comes around the corner, and then we just see what happens. But it's going to be the Hysteria coming out as well to get that board clear and pick off that Death Rattle unit before the 7-7 goes down. And then they're actually going to bounce it as well. So no Yogg pull here from USC. Very corny play, but, you know, respectable. You recognize that you're in a dangerous situation. You need to play accordingly, and they are going to be able to get a little bit of generated value there as well.
Like, honest props, they cleared that up. They've dodged any sort of threat and the slightest here. Makes things have to at least stall out again if they want to bring Yogg out this time by. And yet they even have themselves a nice beefy 6-6 with some healing attached to it as well as a death rattle. So what seemed kind of doom and gloom for USC at least kind of buys them some time.
Danners, before this card comes down, oh, shoot. I was going to ask if we could take a look at that timeline and see what that bottom triggered spell actually was, because it was a very interesting line of play that we saw from USC where they committed a card that's going to guarantee a unit kill, and they ended up bouncing that same unit back to hand. I was curious what that extra value was. It's no big deal. We got the Liberative of Justice now, and it's going to be able to clear off the 6-6 and eliminate it. So the 8 healing will come out onto the USC, but there's no more unit to deal with, so probably best case scenario for St. Clair in this situation.
After taking the damage in the face, and now you have yourselves a wide open ace to go after in the next time by anyway. And then USC, they're almost up at the 20 health again, 19 health, keeping themselves in this game. And to be fair, the longer you keep them in there, the better chance that they could draw exactly what they're looking for. Maybe turn this thing on its head. And we all know that Yogg does not play favorites. He can very well just turn it right on to the dismay of St. Clair too.
You don't pick the ones, eh?
I was just taking a look at the deck list. USC has Mind Reader Elucia in their hand. If they can pull that and catch St. Clair in a position where they have the Yogg but they can't play it, they can actually play St. Clair's Yogg.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the big thing to note about this Priest, though, is that unlike most iterations of Priest, they're not really playing for late game. They wanted to tempo, and unfortunately, they just found their first apotheosis now on turn 12. Which means, like, all that value that they could have had by having that big buffed lifesteal unit earlier was kind of went out the window for this deck. So St. Clair's actually in a pretty decent spot right now. As long as they can deal with that 9-9 and get rid of that somehow in a clean and safe way. I don't think they have the tools to find lethal on this push, but if they can eliminate that unit before it deals too much damage, they're actually kind of in the clear as far as this Priest deck is concerned.
I'm trying to take a look at their hand here. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to deal with this off the top of my head. Let's take a look and see. Of course, got a bunch of 1-1
There doesn't seem
buffs
like
and
there's a
whatnot.
way. Yeah, there's no way to clear it on this turn, but there's ways of reducing its value. Like, it's very likely that USC is going to be able to fully heal, but if you can set up your own board so that by the time they get the full healing, you have a way of not only killing it off, but kind of re-punishing face, it's probably the best line of play that you have. They also need to watch out for the fact that there is a one-shot combo or one-shot potential for USC when they already have such a high threat on board. So that taunt does have to come down. Good smart play from St. Clair. I believe they'll probably throw some Librims into it as well. Just give it a little bit more sustain and damage. But the Mankrik likely going to be the play here.
Drop that, gonna bring down one other minion as well. Get the Murloc out there. Draw a dragon if it gets killed off. Fair enough.
Okay, and they're actually just gonna go wide. Yeah, they're just gonna go wide here. Makes sense. So the nice thing I hadn't considered about this deck is that those Librims of Wisdom would actually combo with that Death Rattle legendary we saw earlier. Unfortunately, obviously, we didn't find them early enough. But there is a way to kind of like infinite combo your Librim of Wisdoms with this deck and just make multiples. It's pretty terrifying.
Absolutely. What are our decks count here? 13 and 11. Okay, so we still got some time in regards to decking out.
It's Priest vs. Paladin, Danners. We're going to be here for a while.
Yeah.
Buckle up, kids.
I've been spoiled all season where everyone's doing like either it's somewhat control-y but finishes kind of early even still, which I know is kind of counterintuitive, but it just seems to be the way that Saint season was happening the couple times that we did stream them nonetheless.
Yeah, they like these mid-range decks, for sure. So here's the question. Do you kill the 3-3 and guarantee that the Oxeron gets drawn by St. Clair? Or do you bluff and hold the 9-4 to force him to play a later game? I think it's kind of like a counter-logic question where like you kind of have to make that trade, but you know that Yogg is coming right around the corner.
Yeah, one way or another. It has arrived. It is in hand. When does it come down, however?
Yeah, this is not the ideal position for Yogg. You're actually at a health disadvantage. You're at a board disadvantage. It's very risky playing the Yogg here. You want to pretty much have eliminated as much risk as possible before you commit that card. This is, again, let's just reestablish. This is if you're trying to win. If you're playing Yogg because it makes you feel good, you can mash it on the board the second you have 10 mana at hand. But this Carriol Roam does give St. Clair some options here. It's going to be able to clear off that 9-1 without actually taking any damage. It's probably going to be the play.
And they definitely need to. That thing, even at the 1 health, was still just such a threat in regards to being able to delete basically anything they want to.
And the Crimson Hothead will combo nicely into the Librims of Wisdom as well. You can immediately trigger that and get that taunt down. These nice little trades come through. The hero power is available as well, of course. And I believe they're just going to go wide with these Librims so as not to eliminate too many opportunities, get something bounced back to hand and lose them both. Actually, they're going to throw them both on the 3-3. Maybe they know something I don't. Hold on. I got to look at these deck lists again.
Hey, like I say time and time again when we do these Hearthstone casts, this and Fortnite I feel like are the 2 games that, regardless of what day it is, we're learning something while mid-broadcast. And I absolutely love that about these games.
So I think the logic there is that the last hand bounce mechanic in that priest deck was Ysera, and since it's already been committed, you don't really have to worry about it too much. That being said, there are a couple ways of generating spells in hand, and if a silence comes down from USC, you can bet St. Clair will be weeping tonight. So a little bit risky, but if you're gonna force out a silence, of course you want to throw it out, force them to waste it on your least impactful unit. So a little bit of a bait and switch play from St. Clair. I definitely don't hate it.
Fair enough. Makes sense in this situation. And just hopefully here, for the side of St. Clair, that they're not kind of playing with their food a little bit too much here. I feel like trying to make this Yogg play work. We know we want to see it. And there's the silence. You called that right away.
Big brain. See? I knew that. I called that out. Oh, man. Okay. Now I feel a little bit better.
Feels good, man.
It's probably not the best course of action for USC, force the silence out a token, but you do eliminate those double Librims. So now St. Clair is just in a real Hail Mary situation. And what better Hail Mary to have than the Pog Saran himself? You can see the hover coming out.
Do it for the fans.
Do it! Do it! That's me. That's me at St. Clair. Hello? You gonna play it?
Just teasing us here.
Oh my god. They even came out with the Annoyatron too. Like, you're gonna rock the Yogg Saran squad with the Annoyatron hero? Oh my gosh. It's an aesthetic. No, come on, don't bait me. Stop. Ryan, I know you're listening to me. Man, jeez.
Not ready for it yet.
We cry. But it's okay. At least we get a lot of value here. They're actually going to look to opt to heal the minion as opposed to base, so keep that board alive. I mean, it makes sense. It's a smart play for sure. They're going to be able to trade off to that 4-4. I think this is kind of the plan for St. Clair. Like I said, you want to eliminate as much risk before you go with the Yogg Saron, so they are going to do their very best to clear off this entire USC board before they actually go for the Yogg, just so you don't risk accidentally perma-buffing the opposing side of the board.
I guess that's fair. That's fair.
But it's a lot fun. It's less fun. We want to see crazy. Give it to me. And I was told by Coach Ryan behind the scenes that this lineup was made for Frez. So Frez, if you're watching, I hope you're enjoying yourself.
Oh, he was in chat earlier, so I'm sure he'll like that. That's hilarious. Loki, I always found it funny that between you and Frez, you started off on Hearthstone, and now you're both on League of Legends. Definitely. What is the correlation? Must be big brains.
True. I won't disagree with that. I think for me, personally, the difference is just card games are like, I love the kind of strategic thinking that goes into it, but I found a very similar kind of satisfaction coaching. Yeah, sure. Hold on. I'll get back to my story later. As we talk about this 10-10 spider with Venom, fully injected with Venom. Okay, now St. Clair, what are you gonna do? You're gonna play the 1-drop, or you're gonna play the big boy? You have one option. There's only one right answer. You swing face with the 1-1, you trade into the 8-4, and you drop the Pog Saron, and you cross your fingers, knock on wood. That's all you have to do. Give it to me.
And I mean, USC just must know. Like, obviously, we all get the deck lists and whatnot prior to the match happening, so they know that, okay, it's past turn 10. They have to be setting up for something. They're just kind of like...
Well, no, they know it got tutored into hand. It got tutored into hand. They know it's in hand.
Right.
They're just waiting for it to come down.
Oh yeah, they could put 2 and 2 together. They'd see that it's the highest and whatnot. And sure enough, they're gonna go into the poison. Here we go. Right. Hang on tight. We're going for a ride.
So, little cheat thing here to unfortunately spell some disappointment. We know that the end turn button is green, which means that this did not find lethal on the opposing face. But let's see what we got. Take control. Oh!
Okay.
Alright, good start. Wait, hold on. Hover over that Yogg. Maybe I'm crazy. This is a new Yogg, isn't it?
It didn't.
Oh my gosh!
It's not the one we thought.
It's not the old Yogg. It's the new Yogg. Okay, so they do have a decent understanding of what the options are with the Yogg. Man, I got myself all hyped up for nothing.
Yeah, we all debated it a little bit, thinking that it was the one where you went shot after shot after shot. But this one looks like it was just a bunch of random selections. And to be fair, stealing a minion, especially that 10-10 or 10-9 in this situation, not bad.
Yeah, it is going to kind of definitely fit into that theme of the Dark Moon Fair when this card was released. Is that carnival-esque style gameplay where you're spinning that wheel of wonder. Man, now I'm just sad. I got myself all hyped for nothing. Jeez. I was waiting for the Oko. That Pog Saron Oko.
Yeah, we debated ourselves a little bit here, but it's still cool to see Yogg Saron here nonetheless. However, it is going to finally depart us here and show up on the other side.
Okay, well, an unfortunate Alder Attendant when I believe all the Librams have already been used in the side of St. Clair. I think they have 1 Justice remaining, but it's already at like a 1 cost, so kind of an awkward hand state for St. Clair. They might even just hold these units. Like, why play them and give away what you have in hand kind of thing? I don't know. This is just an awkward situation. Just try to maybe go face here. I don't think you want to trade and leave the 10-9 open to clear. I think you just want to force the face pressure and make USC trade with you.
More than likely. So, not very many minions in hand. We're going to take their time anyway, just to make sure. I am ready to, you know what, we're going quiet here for a second. This Annoyo bot is annoying me to say the least. Hello. Oh my god.
I can't even hear it. I feel bad for you though. Oh, there it is. Hello. Oh, geez. Okay, so we got the trade. It does clear off that threatening board. You know, if the Apotheosis comes down, you definitely feel very bad about leaving that unit alive, but you do potentially lose out on 10 full damage to face, which is a little scary. Luckily, just going to be the top here. They actually choose not to tap. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's technically just free value, right? This isn't Magic the Gathering. Saving your mana for later doesn't do anything. And we have ourselves a nice little beefy boy to shut things down, and now Saints have like nothing to really breach this.
Yeah, so that was really the danger with making that trade is you're vulnerable to Holy Smite. Technically, it's the same situation either way, but at least you get 10 damage onto enemy face the other way around. And they know that they have no spells left in deck, so that 1/1 is going to feel pretty sad. There is the Blademaster Samuro in hand. They're going to be able to probably try to rush into this 4/12 and start poking away at that shield, but unfortunately for St. Clair, once that Yogg came down and not too much actually came out of it, this is really just kind of burning out the clock against this Priest. And unfortunately, Priest will always win a deck rush because of the constant healing that they have on face. So a dangerous situation, to say the least, for St. Clair.
Absolutely. Still feeling a little silly because about the whole Yogg situation, thinking it was a different style, but
No, that rotated out. I should have known. I am a fool. I'm but a fool.
That should have went 2 and 2 together to me as well. Because if I remember what that card did, it was probably in a much older set, which fair enough. It's me a little bit there, but again, always open to learning new things here, especially regardless of which game it is that we're here with. And to be completely frank with you, yeah, I'm starting to feel like Saints just kind of ran out of gas.
I mean, it's just playing against Priest just makes you cry. There's not really any of, like, I don't think anybody on the planet enjoys playing against Priest. Oh, jeez, you're gonna pull the 1-drop tutor that has no value. Yeah, just throw it on the board. Why the heck not? There it is. There he goes. Sad.
And no other spells left to draw, it seems, so it's kind of stuck here. And it's too bad. I see all of the Gunther fans here and the Saints chat. Thanks for coming in to support the squad, of course. It's awesome to see the Hearthstone chat pop in here today.
Of course. It's Happy Yogg Day.
And sure enough, and there's Frez. Yogg is never a bad play. I feel like that's wrong, but that is still funny. Yogg is always the correct play. There we go.
To be fair, I actually agree with Frez, because if it came down the turn that we said it should have, and if they rolled the same way, they would have taken the entire board of USC and actually won the game. Like, he's not even wrong. I actually completely agree. Yogg is definitely the right play. If you're gonna run a meme deck, you have to commit to the meme. You can't cautiously meme. That doesn't work.
It's either full meme or nothing, eh?
All or nothing, Danny. And they're just gonna keep healing up that 6/6. So unfortunately for St. Clair, yeah, that's gonna be the FF coming out likely. There's no way they get around this. I don't even think they have the ability to clear through any of the minions. And yes, that is going to mean USC is going to take game number 2 with the Priest deck. It is a conquest format. They have to win game number 3 with the Warrior if they want to turn this into a 3-0. So Saints technically have 3 opportunities still to correct this, but I don't know. I don't really see it going any other way, if I'm being honest. Not trying to be a doomsayer. It's a tricky situation you're in. You're running Yogg into tempo. Like, what do?
You definitely put yourself on a timer, and it's not a very comfortable position to put yourself in, but it is funny when it does work. And to be fair, we at least got to see Yogg this time. Just did not quite get that super effectiveness that we were hoping for. Almost had something going, but was answered pretty well right away, especially with it being a different Yogg than we were expecting. So game 3, so it means, of course, this Warrior deck now coming out here. And going up against Priest, of course, you're always going to suffer a little bit as the game goes late. But at the same time, Warrior can kind of do the same thing with armor too, right? So,
yeah,
it's another, not only are you on a timer, but you can also just get crushed in the late game too. So, rough spot here for St. Clair going into this next round.
Yeah, these tempo decks from USC are definitely very interesting. They're classes that you expect to see tempo on, but they're done in a way where they kind of peak at about 5 or 6 mana, like on curve. You're usually curving out at about 5. So they don't really have a late game. And as we saw from that priest deck, really the only reason they won is because they were against Yogg-Saron. Any other deck list in the world that actually has some competitive viability going up in that matchup in that game state, I mean, it's hard to make a statement like that because obviously the game plays out totally different if you're running a different deck. But for the sake of the argument, any other deck closes out the game at that point. Priest ran out completely out of gas. It was just, we saw Saints brick 5 draws in a row, pulling 1/1s on like turn 17, and like that's just because their deck had an even worse top end. So kind of unlucky for St. Clair, but I mean, you did make the decks and you did submit them, so you have no one to blame but yourself. But we love it. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I see Fred still popping off there in the chat. So there you go. Praise Yogg, of course, in the chat. But yeah, it was a bit of an odd spot where, yeah, both teams ran out of gas, but at least USC was rolling when they ran out of gas, and Saints kind of ran out of gas while they were stopped. There was no hope there. So, game number 3 of these Yogg variants here from St. Clair. Do we get to see the Hunter come out and see what's different about it? Or are we going back to maybe Paladin?
They better. They've got to.
Try all 3?
They've got to. Yeah. You've got to. I don't really think any of these decks has a better time against a warrior. I think they all just dislike it. Like, I'm gonna be honest, this is probably just a little bit of personal bias, but every time I go on Hearthstone and I queue up into either warrior or priest, I have a compulsive urge to hit the concede button. I don't know why. It's the something about those classes just brings out like just completely fueled hatred and rage within me. The games take so long. You have to think before you play your cards. You can't just throw out your favorite cards on the board. Like, there's just so many things that you just, oh god, it makes the game not fun, Danners. I'm sorry, it really does.
I could see the red deck wins coming out of you just over and over again. Well, that's too bad, because those decks that you rage against are the ones that I would definitely play blue-black for days, baby. But anyway, we're getting ready to hop into game number 3 in just a quick moment. Before we end up getting there, though, a couple big thank yous. First off, to the sponsors that make this all possible, of course, that being the Zuckman's School of Business and Information Technology, PC Outlet, St. Clair College Alumni Association, St. Clair College itself, of course, Tim Hortons and the St. Clair SRC. Thank you for making this all possible here by supporting us here on the St. Clair Saints varsity esports team. And of course, another big thank you for everybody who's tuning in here tonight, giving these final Hearthstone match of the season here, and just tuning in, kind of enjoying the memes a little bit here with us as well, getting the praise Yogg-Saron, and just supporting the squad. I know we haven't gotten the Hearthstone team on stream a whole heck of a lot so far this semester, but when we do, thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. Love having an active chat for Hearthstone. That's a nice change of pace. I think you and I can agree, Danners. I did just get word from Coach Ryan, however, that they are going to be committing the Hunter deck for game number 3, just to give us a taste of all 3 decks. Just waiting on a pause, but actually looks like that pause has just been resolved, and we are about to jump in here and get that Hunter versus Warrior matchup. And this is one of those really interesting matchups. As someone that spams a lot of face Hunter on ladder and cheeses wins out of people, I can say that it's typically one of those classes where going into the Warrior, you don't feel too bad. But this is a very spell-based Hunter. Because they're not putting a lot of pressure on board, they're not really baiting out anything from the Warrior, so I definitely fear for the mid game.
Now wait a minute, this isn't just Yogg, this is Cthulhu too?
they just packed. This is the
oh my god.
This is the yard sale Hunter deck. He just packed everything in there, mashed it all up together.
Or what is actually the proper term, the free to play Hunter.
Very good. We love it.
That feel when you don't have the coin to get the actual deck, so you just throw in whatever you can.
I just realized Gunther is on mouse today, which means that we're not only getting Pog-Saron finale, but we're getting Pog-Saron from Gunther the Hunter himself.
Gunther the Hunter.
What a beautiful day. Oh my gosh. This is peak Hearthstone.
Gotta love it. How do we we put something on the board, or do we just fire off the arrow? It looks like they're thinking about finding themselves a beast of some sort.
Yeah, it's not the best use of that spell, but when the warrior's not putting anything on board and you're kind of in that awkward position where you're first and your deck doesn't really have a lot of board pressure, getting something out to at least get the warrior a little bit scared is probably the right call. It's not going to do too much, but it is going to be there and give the Saints some presence as we move closer and closer into that mid game. That's when I expect this warrior deck to pop off. Around 5-6 mana is when Saints really need to start being scared of their board state.
All right, so is this little crab here? Is that a crabby or a kingler? Is it going to be the hero we deserve, or is it going down quick?
You know what? I'm not gonna lie, Danners. I love that you made a Pokemon reference, but I'm ashamed that I actually don't. I can't. It went right over my head. Sorry. I feel like I've let you down in a really meaningful way.
It's okay. It was just a level 2 crabby.
No problem. Ooh, Sphere of Sapiens. That's kind of interesting, actually. The Bloated Python is probably the take. They don't have a lot of board pressure in this deck, and finding a 3-drop to play later on is likely going to be the call for St. Clair. But the Sphere of Sapiens is definitely interesting. It's a really good card.
Yeah, quickly taking a read over, and that is definitely interesting. However, yeah, definitely understand why that Python would be something you look forward to as well. Disgusting art there. I see everything moving inside its stomach. But the small little details in these golden cards. Gotta love it, even if it makes your stomach turn.
You know, Pythons swallow their prey whole, Danners.
Absolutely.
They've got to keep it. It's canon, Danners. It's canon.
I was gonna say, it's like biologically, that's correct. Yes.
It is going to be the take as well, so we're not just going to get to look at him for the time being. We're going to get to see him on board in action. You can actually, if you look real closely, Danners, you can see his stomach moving about in his hand. There you go. Look at that. Yummy. Yeah.
Good thing I had dinner maybe 3 hours ago.
So what you're saying is that you've digested better than he has.
Fact.
Now for this warrior deck, really, like I said, getting to that 5 to 6 mana curve, they're in prime position to do so. There's really no threats from this hunter deck. So St. Clair, I mean, they wanted to put on a show for us and let us get a taste of all 3 of these decks, but I think this iteration of hunter is probably the worst to take into the warrior matchup. So they're definitely fighting an uphill battle. But if we can see the Pogsaron come out, get a better roll this time. That'd be really exciting.
Now they're discovering a rush minion, I do believe, in this situation, and we got ourselves a little bumper car apparently.
Ooh, double athletic studies. That's a lot of value in USC's hand. You have to think, not only are they rush minions, but they're rush minions that have had their costs reduced as well.
Right.
Lots of tempo plays. The Kargath could come out next turn. If they manage to find Kargath, that's very scary for St. Clair, because that's going to be... I don't really know what the proper terminology is, but it functions very similarly to that McGurgle Prime card, where it's a decent unit for the mana you play it for, but then it generates an 8/8 late game heavy monster as well. Not really sure exactly what to denote those units as, but Kargath would be a very scary unit for USC to put on board.
Definitely makes sense here. Now we're going to see a little bit of shots to the face of sorts, more than likely here.
Yeah, I expect the trade to come out. I think the trade. I'm from the 3/3, yeah. And the reason for that is because it's a high value trade. You give them hand value, sure, but you're also trading out without losing your unit, which is always a nice play to make when you can. And this deck, again, it's a Yogg-Saron deck. You're just trying to get to turn 10. So anything you can do to slow down the pace of your opponent's deck is always a good play.
Fair enough, makes sense. Within the next turn or two, however, is when the deck really starts to come online here for USC. So Saints have to start getting a little bit nervous, at least in my opinion, and I feel like what they have in their hand is not exactly going to help them mitigate any sort of damage.
There's some plays, and like you mentioned, the Cthulhu is in the deck for St. Clair, so you have to recognize that those body of Cthulhu's, they're decent spells on their own, right? I think it's a 5-mana, for a 6/6 taunt? Is that body of Cthulhu? That's pretty solid value, and it's not the most mana efficient card, but when you're playing for the late game stall, and you're playing for that Yogg-Saron win condition, drawing this early and having the ability to play it on curve is never a bad thing.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess a 6/6 with taunt would definitely be an extremely beefy minion to try and deal with at this part in the game. Let's see if there's anything coming out of this warrior here from the side of USC. Still with all their mana, they're really taking their time with this one.
Yeah, they've got a lot of value in hand, and I think they're just trying to figure out, what the most efficient way to play is. And that's definitely one of the more mechanical elements of Hearthstone is as these decks evolve and get more and more complex, and especially tempo decks, I will say this about those class of decks in general, is there's a lot of micro decisions to be made, right? It's not just about playing on curve, it's about maximizing your curve and sometimes finding opportunities to make sure that when you set up your combo, you do so in a way that there's limited windows of exploitation, right? You never want to be caught in a situation where you set up a unit, you have the spell in hand ready to buff it, but then it just gets clear the turn before you can play that buff. So waiting for that prime moment to just commit everything, knowing that St. Clair won't have the resources to respond is definitely the way to go.
Absolutely. I've seen it time and time again across like all of competitive Hearthstone. That's something just like maybe doing one action and out of order just instantly throws out the entire plan.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so
Order of
frustrating when that
operation.
happens.
It's all about the order of operations with this game. 100%.
I have no time for games.
I don't really see any reason for St. Clair not to just hit face with everything. Not really sure what the call is. I guess they're thinking, oh, we have 6 damage, we could clear the 1/6. But I think when you have the 6/6 taunt established, you just want to get that cheat damage in on face.
Yeah, I don't think that 1/6 is really going to threaten anything. What's the worst case? It's going to run into your body of Cthulhu and kill itself? Like, that's basically all it can really do. Granted, yes, okay, it could get buffed. But can it get buffed to the point where your body of Cthulhu can't deal with it? Unlikely.
It could get buffed, and it stays on as a unit that could potentially threaten a board state if a brawl comes down. The general logic with brawl is that as opposed to what you may think, which is that you want to just have like as few units on the board so you don't lose them all, you want to increase your optimization and your probability of having something stay on board. So if there was a time to brawl, this would actually be a decent turn to do it. However, that doesn't look like they have it in hand, and they are going to just start generating more hand value. But now is the time where this warrior deck needs to start actually playing the board before they get outpaced. That is going to be the Blade Master Samuro coming down, and that should actually be a board wipe here. And that's a beautiful play from USC.
Ooh, very nice.
Best day on the job.
A Grand Slam, that's interesting.
The Grand Slam is such a cool card.
That sounds hilarious. I hope I actually get to see that later.
Attack random enemies does include face, by the way.
Oh,
So it
perfect.
could potentially be 12 damage to face. It's a very good card. It's just super top end heavy. I was seeing a lot of play, I believe, 2 patches ago when spell-based hunter archetypes were really popular and beast hunter was kind of back in the meta. You would see a lot of those new Grand Slam cards, but it's definitely one of those cards where you throw it in your deck and you only get to use it probably like 10 to 20% of the time, just because of how expensive and how difficult it is to actually find an optimal scenario to use it. But if you're going to run a meme deck, you got to throw it in there.
Like having... What did I used to have back when I used to play? I got lucky. What's that random, like... It's like either an 8 or 9 or 10 dinosaur with charge that is just
King
like...
Crush.
Yes. Having... having that in the deck just for the memes to say you got the kill with it. It's never usually useful. At least I've never gotten it very useful.
It's a silly card.
It's a funny one.
It's a very silly card. It's one of those cards where you look at it and you're like, damn, 9/9 charge? OP! And then you put it in your deck and you're like, wait, I can't use this ever.
Exactly.
It never feels good to use. But there were a lot of decks. Okay, you know what? Hold on. I'll hold that thought. Let's talk about this. This is what did I say, Danners? Turn 6, right? That's what I said? Look at this. And look what St. Clair has in their hand. That's a Wind Fury. They actually just lose. I don't even think they get to play the game after this turn. Oh my god. This is what I say. Hunt a warrior, eh? Just warrior.
Yes. Definitely apologize for cutting you off there, but it's like, okay, hang on a second. I see buffed
No.
minions. I see Wind Fury. It's like, oh no. This isn't good.
This is quite bad. I completely agree. I'm trying to figure out. St. Clair's trying to figure out the most optimal way to actually clear this. And they are just going to go for the 1/1 and then trade the rush as well to hold on to that bola shot. I mean, I know why you're holding on to it because you don't really have any value out of getting it. So it's 15 damage on board for the warrior currently. I don't know if they have lethal in it. It's hard to say. It's possible. It's unlikely, but it's possible. 11 damage is pretty easy gap to close with a warrior deck.
Okay, Rush. Okay, so it's not going to the face, but it's going to be a possibility of another buffed up minion at least later on down the road. Any other buffs in hand here, Warrior?
Can we get a hover over that 4/5? I'm actually curious what that battlefield effect is. After you summon a Rushman, give it yucky. That's disgusting.
Jeez, okay. Okay.
Alright, bye-bye.
And maybe not this turn, but by next turn if there's no answer. This
St. Clair
is a
has to pull
nasty
a response.
board.
I think that's just game over. I actually don't see a way that St. Clair plays after this turn. Yeah, there's the Ganarag. That's a really Ganarag rather. That's a really good card actually. I love those dormant units. So much value.
Oh boy.
That's let me see if I can quick map this. That's 30 damage on board currently. Oh, psych, make that 33. 35. 35 damage on board for the warrior. Yeah, that's a good game. GG,
yeah.
unfortunately. That is going to be the end of the Activision Blizzard season for St. Clair as they play out this last turn. To give us a little bit of hope, the 12-12 does come down, but with no taunts available, it's not going to be able to resist against this offensive from the University of Southern California, and that means that a historic run for St. Clair, finding, I believe, one of their best tournament placements in history with Collegiate Hearthstone, is going to come to an end as they bow out and down to the University of Southern California. Thank you. Such an awesome game and a fun match to cast. Unfortunate end, but you know, at least we got to have some fun with it.
Absolutely. They tried something different, and I'll give them props for it. Of course, their playoff run for the Activision Blizzard League was completely toast, so it was nice of them to try something different for us, not strictly go meta, and use a couple fan favorite cards along the way. And to be honest, like seeing a lot of the cards, even in that Hunter deck, it got me kind of excited, but it's like, okay, wait a minute. You, like we saw when those when Fury minions just dropped down, it's like, wait a minute, you're just dead. The game's done. Do you have an answer for this? No. Is Hunter like really good at AoE removal? At least personally, not really. So it's like it was a rough time to say the least there for the Saints team, but props for trying.
Yeah, it's unlucky. Like I was saying, Hunter is good into Warrior when you can provide pressure, but unfortunately that deck isn't really putting pressure on board. It's trying to eliminate pressure and buy time for the late game, and because of that, the Warrior deck was able to just freely establish on its kind of prime curve and just take over the game like crazy. So there's going to be the match going the way of USC, and St. Clair's run for the season is going to come to an end. But there will be, I believe that's actually, I don't want to speak too soon, Danners, but I believe that is actually going to be the end of St. Clair Hearthstone, at least for the time being. Moving on into the summer, I don't believe we have summer leagues planned. Don't know.
I don't think there's. I don't think there's anything, at least as of right now, that I know. But let's be honest here. It's collegiate esports. I can have a brand new Hearthstone league starting tomorrow, and I would just be like, oh, okay, sure, why not? Because it's just the way things pop up sometimes. But not a bad thing. It means we would get more action. But at least as of right now, on paper, this was the end of the semester here for our current St. Clair Saints varsity Hearthstone team. So a big thank you, of course, to the players involved here. That, of course, being Derval, Simon, and Alexis. Thank you all for competing here this season and this semester. Hope you had a fantastic time. And of course, big thank you to Coach Ryan Brook for coaching the team up to a second place position in OPSE with an absolute crazy run considering how the regular season went for OPSE. To get second there was absolutely nuts. Not going to be able to make it work here in the Activision Blizzard League, but that's A-okay. It's still a solid attempt in the end. So with that, don't have necessarily a schedule for things to come because it has slowed down considerably. And a lot of these next matches are kind of like up in the air as to one, where they're going to be streamed because some leagues are going to be taking their own streams. And then like which matches are actually happening is another thing. So one thing I'll need everybody to do, one, first off, make sure you have this St. Clair Saints, the Saints Gaming CA Twitch stream followed. That way when we do go live, you'll get the notification. Make sure you follow on Twitter as well for not only results and like upcoming matches, but for recruit signings as well. So that's going to be another thing that you want to keep in track of. And I think you're mouthing something over to me. What you got?
No, I was just being silly. I was just saying, do it. Do it! It's important. It's definitely important. You want to make sure you know what we're up to all the time. we like to have fun on these casts, and we like having you guys with us. And the more viewers we have, and the better our stats are, the better the streams that we can provide for you guys. So always love having engagement in the chat. And speaking of engagement, Danners, going on into the upcoming leagues, we've got some recruitment opportunities going into fall of 2021. So while Hearthstone may not be on the roster, we have plenty more games for you to sign up for. That is going to include, of course, League of Legends, Call of Duty, Overwatch, Fortnite, Rainbow Six Siege, Rocket League, CSGO, and of course our new addition, Valorant, as well. So if you are an esports athlete and you're interested in playing for one of our St. Clair Saints varsity teams, be sure to send in an application to stclairsaints.ca/join as soon as possible so we can get you set up for tryouts and good to go. Conditional offers are already being sent out. If you're following our Twitter, like Mr. Danners mentioned, you're seeing already some of these players being announced. So if you want to get in on that early, make sure to send in that application as soon as possible.
Absolutely. I wouldn't even necessarily call it early at this point. If you try to wait till August or something to apply, we might have a completely filled up roster ready to go, and it might make a whole world of mix-ups, especially if you are of the capability to compete here on our varsity team. So why wait until last second? Just get it done, get it out of the way, apply on our website, and if your application is deemed fit, you shall be contacted by our recruiter Chris or by the coach themselves.
Yeah, I know you ain't got homework to do. I know you ain't got exams to do. You got
Guess
nothing
wrapping that
better
up,
to
right?
do. Gotta send those applications in. No more excuses. And speaking of applications and things to apply for, I gotta say, Danners, ever since I've been blessed up by you guys at the varsity space, I've been looking pretty dapper. If you guys want to look dapper like me, make sure to take a look at our Acquire merch drop store to get yourself some free merch. We've got masks, jerseys, sweaters, jackets, I believe t-shirts as well. Plenty of things that you can buy from the Saints Gaming merch store, and they are all absolutely beautiful. If you want to take a look at that, be sure to visit acquire.ca/saints so you can pick up your own merch and gear and start repping the school right away. Whether you be a current student, future student, mom, dad, brother, salty opponent, whatever you are, we want you to buy our merch, support our streams, help us out. We love that.
Absolutely. Could not say it better myself, Zeddy. So thank you. And I guess one other final thank you, of course, going over to Zeddy. Thank you for joining me on Hearthstone over and over again. This personally is always the hardest game for me in regards to commentating and in regards to the solo commentary. So having you here able to keep the knowledge at hand to answer any of my questions while we're on cast and keeping this moving forward without it just me being, oh, what does this do? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, what does this do again? Oh, I guess this and this could work together. Thank you for keeping me in line here with the Hearthstone.
There's still a little bit of that. Let's not lie. There's still a little bit of that. I almost had the entire cast excited about a card that wasn't even in play for about 30 minutes, but it's okay.
That makes a good caster, though, right?
Yeah. These things happen.
You sold us a story of something that
True.
could have happened a couple patches ago, but it's okay.
Build the narrative. Build the narrative. That's all it is. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching the stream. And of course, thank you again to the sponsors of tonight's event and every event that we have here on the Saints Gaming channel. That will be, of course, Seckelman School of Business and IT, PC Outlets, St. Clair College Alumni Association, St. Clair College itself, Tim Hortons, and the St. Clair SRC. Thank you once and again for supporting these streams and allowing these opportunities for not only our players, but also staff like myself and Mr. Danners to, get to express our passion and love for esports here on the channel. With that said, I believe that is everything up for tonight. Thank you again, everyone, so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next stream.